right, so we're going to start talking about the life cycle of stars, okay? And I will be honest, okay, if we take a look at this table here or this chart, think about the life cycle of a star as a human being. We start off as babies, then we become toddlers and teenagers and young adults and so on. Well, a star goes through this too. So if you follow the arrows, okay, I'm going to pronounce some big vocabulary words. We're going to talk about the life cycle of a star and kind of follow the arrows. So stars begin is what we call a cloud of dust and gas called a nebula. Say nebula, nebula. Okay, now if I follow the arrow, after it's a nebula, a star becomes what we call a protostar. Protostar. Follow the arrow, becomes a yellow star. Boys and girls, the sun is a yellow star. So the sun is a yellow star. Then it becomes a red giant. And just like it says, that star is giant, it's big. But in the star world, red, the color red actually indicates, we think red is so hot, fire. But in the star world, it's not the hottest star, okay? In the star world, blue is the hottest color of a star. So we'll talk about that more. Then after a red giant, it has a choice. It has a choice. Do I want to become a red supergiant and get even bigger and bigger? Okay. Or maybe when I'm a protostar, I become a red dwarf, a tinier star, but I appear the color red. And then I become a red supergiant. Or maybe when I'm a protostar, I get so hot and big, I become a blue giant. So right here, when the star is a protostar, it can say, hey, I'm going to become a yellow star, then a red giant. Or, hey, when I'm a protostar, I'm going to turn to be a red dwarf, then a red supergiant. Or when I'm a protostar, I become a blue giant because I get so hot and massive. It has a choice, okay? So let's talk about some vocabulary. So all stars begin as a nebula. It's a cloud of gas and dust. Then they all become next a protostar. And it becomes a protostar when that nebula gets so hot and it actually sets off a nuclear reaction. Okay, remember I said our sun is a yellow star. So after a protostar, in that diagram I showed you, it has a choice. Do I want to become a yellow star? And if the answer is yes, this is actually considered to be a middle-aged star. Temperatures around 10,000 degrees. So the sun is a yellow star, and then maybe billions and billions of years down the road, it has potential to become a red dwarf. Okay, a red dwarf indicates it's small, dwarf, small. Okay, they're not as hot though because red. So in the star world, blue is the hottest color of a star. Hot, hot, hot. Okay. So if it becomes a red dwarf, it's smaller than our sun. I know that because I see the word dwarf. Dwarf means smaller, but red equals it's hot, but it's not as hot. Okay. Then it has a choice. If it becomes next a blue giant, there's some stars that are blue giants out there. It means it is extremely hot and bright. But they're so massive and so hot, ladies and gents, that if a star becomes a blue giant, they are able to burn off their fuel, which is hydrogen and helium, so quickly. They do not last very long because blue in the star world is hot. And when it's a giant, it's so massive, they will not last long, okay? But perhaps, okay, we talked about yellow star, so it has a choice. Maybe it doesn't become a blue giant. Instead, it became a red giant. This is still a huge star, okay? But it is not as hot as a blue giant, okay? Then it has a choice. Do I want to get bigger and become a red supergiant? Again, it's a life cycle. Stars have choices. Becomes a red supergiant, perhaps next in the life cycle becomes a white